one big mistake I made early on is I wouldn't be vulnerable. So I remember sitting in New York City with my media coaches, and I asked a very simple question: what's the one thing that will keep me from being a national person? Remember, my goal is to be a national international person. And my media coach, eating lunch, he said, you won't tell the whole story. You won't be vulnerable. Right? Like, people see you as a machine, and they can't relate to that machine. They don't wake up motivated. Like, you never talk about the bad. You never tell the tough stories. You never tell, right? And there's what's called stories of origin. And a story of origin is big moments in your life that had a significant impact. Right? And they are highs and lows, right? That's why, so I listened to him, but I wasn't ready to hear it. So I walked out of that meeting, I'm like, I ain't talking about the fact that my dad never hugged me, never told me he loved me, never came to a baseball game. You understand what I'm saying? I'm like, I ain't talking about that stuff. Somebody else talk about that, because I ain't talking about it. I'm Coach Burt, right? And so for 3 or 4 years, I wouldn't listen to them. I was paying these guys to coach me, and they were like, you got to get more vulnerable. When you have a bad day, you got to tell people, man, I woke up this morning, I didn't feel like motivating anybody. Right? And I felt rejected the other day, and that brought back this feelings of my dad never paying attention to me when I was a kid. You understand what I'm saying? And so for 3 years, I didn't listen to them, and I didn't grow. And then I finally said, you know what? I'm just going to be completely vulnerable to people. I'm going to tell the whole story. Good, bad, and ugly, right? I'm going to talk about the whole thing. And these stories of origin is when I really started to connect to people at a much deeper level. And that changed my career, okay? So these things that Gabby's forcing you to do, although a little bit uncomfortable, are very meaningful stories that you need to be able to tell to people. And they're called stories of origin. So when you hear me talk about now, I talk about I was raised by a single mother. She had me when she was 16 years old. She used to take me to the local baseball field, and I would stay down there for hours and hours and hours, right? And one woman named Mickey Vincent cared for me and fed me and tended to me. And that woman said to me, one of these days, son, you're going to be a great coach, right? And that's really when I knew I was supposed to be a coach in life. That is a story of origin. Yeah. Everybody see that? So you would hear me tell that story over and over and over and over to connect to people, okay? So this is what she's giving you through these exercises are very important. And I really like the fact that I told my wife this when she didn't want to write her book. I said, your desire to help people has got to overcome your desire to be comfortable. Because helping lots of people is very inconvenient. Everybody with me? And she's like, I don't want to write the book. I'm not. And I'm like, look, it's uncomfortable for you to do this. But if it helps one marriage, it's worth it. And your desire to help that one couple, just picture that one couple, whoever that avatar is, right? Because I know it's tough being married to me. Okay? The way I think, the way I go, how hard I work, I can be insensitive. That's just who I am as a person, right? That's how the good Lord made me. I'm just a hardcore, disciplined dude. It ain't easy being married to me, especially with the kind of goals and ambition I have. And there's got to be other people out there that struggle with this, right? Right or wrong? Right. So when you write this book, it's going to help that husband or that wife, and that's why you got to do it. And that's what Gabby's really saying is, well, if you don't write the book, you don't help the person. And it's almost become this obligation, this burden on you that you're carrying that you can't help the person until you write the book, right? To Dave's point, you write the book to help all the people, to fight through that period, right? Because that ain't easy, fighting through that period. So he's got to write the book, in my opinion, whether it's comfortable to him or not, to go help the people you got to help. Does everybody see that? And listen, 200 million Americans say they want to write a book, folks. That's 81% of Americans. Now, how many of those actually have the guts to do it, to see it through to its conclusion? Is a much smaller number. Why? They'll say, well, it's hard. Or my wife said, I don't know how to write a book. Or I've never done it. Or I don't have the pedigree. I'm like, it don't matter. You got it inside of you. Let's pull it out of you. So we hired a person. This is before Gabby came along. We hired a person that came and met with my wife every week. They talked. The girl would extract stuff from her. And then my wife came out of those meetings with these big concepts. Like one of her concepts is, when I quit competing versus my husband's ambition, and I started cooperating with his ambition, our life went to another level. That's a huge takeaway. Right or wrong? Hey, and it was a big win for me right there. Now, here's my point, though. My wife is smart enough to know that when she lets me go and be Coach Burt, we live a better life. We got nice houses and a private jet. You understand what I'm saying? But early in our marriage, it was a competition. It's like, oh, you're picking your work over me. And then one day, she just had a big revelation. No. I don't need to suppress my husband's prey drive. Yeah. That's how God made him. I need to let him run, right? But I'm going to run right beside him. And that was a huge turning point for our relationship, just to be honest with you. And she talks about that in the book. That one thing can change a marriage. So that's why you got to write the book. That's what Gabby's really saying. These are things that you got to get clear. Who's the person? What's the message? How do you tell the story? How do you connect to people on a deeper level? Okay? And that's really the importance of that session, in my opinion, is understanding stories of origin. Because those stories are powerful. Now, if you don't get those stories out there, that's on you. Right or wrong? Right. If you don't help people with your message, that's on you. That's what Gabby's saying. So I really want to encourage you to really understand the importance of writing the book. Okay? It's almost like I have to write this book. I can't not write this book because there's people counting on me to show up and deliver.